I would like to call the meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, July 9th. This is our regular Rossmore Community Service District meeting. Actually, let's do a call to order.
Director Coletta.
Present.
Director Casey.
Here.
Director Kahlert.
Here.
Director Rips.
Still here.
President Maynard.
Here. Prior to the Pledge of Allegiance, I would like us all to have a moment of silence in the remembrance of the 19 heroic firefighters who passed away last week doing their job. Two of these were actually local people, a Kevin Wojciak, 21, of Seal Beach, and a Christopher McKenzie, 20, also of Seal Beach. So this wasn't just a tragedy that happened out of state. It affected our neighbors and people who have enjoyed the same school districts, churches, etc. So I'd like to ask for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I'd also like to ask our staff that in honor of their sacrifice, I'd like that our flags to be at half-mast on both tomorrow and the day after, one for each of the individuals. And our sympathies definitely go out to the families. And now let's stand for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have some presentations today. First up is Southern California Gas Company's project overview. I believe we have Paul Simmons here. Please approach.
Good evening, and thank you so much for having us with you here tonight. Before I get started, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce two of my colleagues that are with me in the room this evening. Jennifer Vaughn is our local public affairs manager, and she's back there with the tall, good-looking gentleman, Lynn Van Aken, who's our site acquisition manager for this particular project. I was before this board maybe a year and a half ago, and we talked about our advanced meter project, and we had a little bit of a delay in rolling the project forward, at least in its initial phases. But we are here today to give you an update and to share with you where we are and to now indeed move the project forward. So you may recall the project is essentially the installation of radio devices on existing gas meters. We have 6 million to effect in our service territory, and the $1 billion project will take us through 2017. The installation of these radios will be done by gas company employees who are formerly meter readers. And so those folks get to move into a full-time position with the company, move through the project into other areas of the company once the project is completed following 2017. This project is directed by the California Public Utilities Commission, as is everything that takes place within the gas company. The radio itself is powered by two AA-sized batteries. We are not replacing meters by and large. It's existing gas meters. You install the radio. It takes about 15 minutes on the high end, 5 minutes on the low end to install this device. These two AA batteries hold their charge for 20 years because the radio is off most of the time. The radio turns on 4 times a day for a grand total of less than 2 minutes per year. What that means is we are transmitting from the meter less than 2 minutes per year. Compare that to other technologies that are out there with other utilities. They're transmitting about a minute a day. The meter does not communicate, or the radio does not communicate with any other radios on the city block. It is a direct communication to our network or receivers. We'll talk about those in a few moments. So it's one-way communication. Nothing comes into the radio at all or into the meter. There's only the transmission of gas use information. This is one of my favorite slides. It's a silly little a cartoon or a graphic, but it really does break the project down in very simple terms. Gas flows through the meter the same way it always has. The radio transmits that information through a series of data collection units or data collector units. That information is then transmitted to the gas company, and then we provide that information back to residents on a next day basis. Residents and small business owners, basically anyone who's got a gas meter, would receive that gas use information. Folks will then have the opportunity opportunity to go online, see that gas use, how much gas is used, and determine if and when they'd like to cut back or save some money. I often joke that residents generally, you know, when you look at the service territory from Visalia down to the Mexican border, residents may not care all that much about their gas bill, but the small business community is actually quite eager to have this tool at their disposal, and we're eager to provide that to them. Receiving that gas use information would be our data collection units. This is the network. The backbone of the project is this network. We're installing 4,000 of these units in the community of Rossmore.
4,000?
I'm kidding. It's only 2, but I thought I would get your attention. No, we're installing 4,000 of these units in our service territory from about Visalia to the Mexican border, as I said. The receivers, think of a small box at the top of a pole 24 feet in the air, 2 antennas and a solar panel. The antennas receive the information from the meters in the surrounding area. That information is then transmitted to the gas company via cellular technology. In the box is battery backup, and the solar panel powers the equipment. By and large, the gas company is installing new poles to hold this equipment, and that is holding true through Orange County and in this area, in particular, Rossmore. The number 4,000, I like to call out the reason why we need that many receivers. There are really 3 factors that inform that number: meter density, topography, and redundancy. As the California Public Utilities Commission directed the gas company to move forward with the project, they mandated that we have a 1-to-3 ratio through most of our service territory. What that means is that each meter is communicating with 3 receivers in the event that one goes down via lightning or her car hits it or what have you. So you have that 1-to-3 ratio, that redundancy built into our network. So the installation of data collection units is really the first phase of the project. To date, we've installed more than 1,200 units. That's a little more than a quarter of the network is installed. Many areas in Orange County and Los Angeles County and certainly in other parts of the service territory as well. We are moving forward with the project. This gives you an idea of unincorporated Orange County, this slide here. In the unincorporated areas of the county, we're installing 38. I understand that number has actually increased a little bit to 40 or 41, but nevertheless, that doesn't affect this body here tonight. If you look in the upper left-hand corner or to the far east of this map, you'll see 2 dots, MH127 and MH057. I believe my eyes are bad, but those are the 2 units that are scheduled to be installed here in the community of Rossmore. Everything else is obviously being dealt with in other areas. Those 2 units will be picking up feeds here in the community, some of the surrounding cities and different jurisdictions, as you would imagine. What I have here are the locations of the center point of where the smart guys that have propagated out our entire network said that these units need to be installed. And I've got a little bit of leeway here. So from this address, I can essentially go 500 feet or so in any direction to install these units. And so I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about both of these. MH057, we have a lot to talk about here tonight, and MH127 we'll finish up with. Before we do, I do like to point out our community outreach efforts. That phase 1 is really what I spend a lot of time doing, and I've done it here in Rossmore, and that is knocking on doors, one-on-one with residents, explaining what's going to be potentially happening in the event that we need to install units in a neighborhood. So I have knocked on doors of residents here in the community, explaining the installation of this infrastructure where we are going to be in proximity to homes. So MH057, you can see the search ring that I talked about, the 500 feet in any direction. And we came up with a couple of 2 different potential scenarios. And really, I'd be interested in the board's comments on these 2 particular candidates. Candidate 1 is a location that we identified over on Foster and Gertrude. It's a good location from our vantage point. You're really not impacting many homes in terms of folks walking out their front door seeing a pole. It is on the side yard there. It is next to other infrastructure that's in the right-of-way. Although in my efforts to knock on doors and speak with residents, I did hear a couple of complaints. And in the spirit of transparency, thought I'd share that with you tonight. One of which is you already have utilities in the right-of-way. And so the folks didn't want additional utilities potentially in that area. And the other being that an additional pole in that area may inhibit, although I personally don't agree with this, I do want to bring it to light, is that there are folks concerned that it may inhibit the view of buses that are dropping off children at the school just down the street. So those are the two main issues that arose, although the homes that are most impacted by the potential installation of a pole at this location were supportive of the installation of this pole. I did move down Foster to the park area there in the community, and we identified a location in the right-of-way that could potentially work. And when you kind of balance the needs of the network, the needs to install a unit in this particular area, and you consider some of the different aesthetic concerns or concerns of the community, this may be a viable option. And installing it there toward the entrance of the park. There's some of the concerns there. Obviously, you're right there in the middle of the bushes, as opposed to inhibiting the entrance there to the park. But it may be an option that we have. This particular location is new. This was something that came about after speaking to residents. This was actually a suggestion by a resident in the community. This by no means is something that I'm saying that this is where we definitely need to go, but I'd be interested in your feedback. And so in full disclosure, your staff has not seen this. Your staff was aware of the previous location. I see them looking and questioning each other, saying they never saw this. So this is one potential location. And so, Henry, did you have a question? It's right down Foster on the left-hand side of the street. Yes. Yes, a little mini park.
Right next to a drainage canal.
Yes, that's right.
Like Copa.
Yeah.
The Copa.
If you look up,
Thank you.
Yeah.
We did look at that site.
people don't look.
Well, not with Miss Montana, but
No,
you and I did a while back.
We did look at that site, and at that time, you indicated that that site was not viable for a number of reasons.
Right.
And maybe you could, give us some reason why it now looks okay and it didn't before.
Well, we stretched our search ring, Henry, to be honest with you. We went in, and as I look at where we can install poles in terms of what the folks who propagated this project out, I went in and I said, listen, we need to have some spirit of flexibility here. And so as they went and they searched, as they stretched it out, we were able to get a clear line of sight that would work. This is a tough spot because of some overhead line issues. It is a tough spot because of the drainage canal area. But this particular location is in the public right-of-way, and it may present a viable option for this project.
Did you do any community outreach?
I did, thank you. And you'll notice there I did speak with two residents that are across from that park who had no problem at all with the installation thereof. There were two other homes that were not home. I went to that area 3 times. I left my business card, information about the project. In fact, the same information that I have on the back table as it relates to the project and information about the network. You gentlemen here have it in your packet as well. We provided that information to people's front doors, and along with my business card if folks had any questions. And I've not received any calls about the project. So before I move on, I don't know if you have any questions about this particular location itself. We do have one other location to talk about, but I'd certainly entertain any thoughts or concerns or questions at this time.
Well, this particular location on Foster, that's actually adjacent to a home, if I understand it correctly.
It is.
And so you've talked to the people at that residence, and they're okay with that location? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yeah, I did speak with at the park or the previous candidate 1 or candidate 2.
Well,
sir?
either one, actually, but
Yes.
this one in particular is what I'm referring to.
Yeah, well, candidate 2, I spoke with the 2 residents that are directly across the street from the park, and neither had any problem. The residents that's actually in the picture on the lower left-hand side there that would be potentially most impacted, no one was home as I knocked on that door 3 different days, and I left my information on their front door, so I've not communicated with that particular resident.
You know, that's my biggest concern is
Certainly.
they're going to have homeowners that are going to look out their side or front door and they see this huge pole with a transmitter device on it.
Well,
I mean, it's got to go somewhere, right?
Two points, Mr. Casey. You're right. It does have to go somewhere. Number one, and number two, it is a pole that is going to be in the same spirit as a street light, except with no street light on it. I mean, it's the exact same manufacturer in terms of the dimensions of the pole, the height, the width, and so forth. So it is not a huge telecommunications pole that folks may have seen in other locations. It is the exact same pole that's manufactured
It's the same height
for
as our
streetlights.
streetlight. Same
I'm
height.
sorry?
It is the same height as our other streetlights.
24 feet tall.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, what is the rule, if any, with regards to the proximity of one of these potential advanced meter poles to a Edison wood pole? What's the rule? What agreements do we have with Edison?
Well, I think the first answer to your question is there is no rule except that we need to be away from power lines in particular, and the answer there is 20 feet. I think that's what you were asking. Is that correct, Mr. Coletta?
Well, that's part of it.
Okay.
The first part was the pole. The second part, you provided the answer 20 feet. So now, what about, other than the parkway of the mini park, what about more on the interior of the park? What discussions have taken place about giving consideration for an alternative, deeper planting of the pole?
Our primary focus it needs to continue to be in the public right-of-way. So the further you go into the park or into the park, either becomes the ownership of this body or of the county. I believe it's the county, if I'm not mistaken. I could be.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Golden State Water owns the property. We have annual $1 per year easement for the use of the park.
Right. And so the gas company has a franchise agreement with the County of Orange to install our equipment, our infrastructure, in the public right-of-way.
Now, behind the block wall in the park is a drainage canal you can see in the lower left-hand corner if you go to
Yes.
Candidate 2. What about any of that area more closer towards the street, but yet behind that wall? Has that been given consideration?
I'm not sure in particular if that has. I can tell you that you do run into public right-of-way issues, and leased land issues, and so forth and so on, and added costs. I think it's important to talk about added costs in this.
Yeah, but before we talk about added
Yeah.
costs, because it's going to be passed on to the consumer eventually. So there's no free lunch on our part as consumers, and I know that the company's going to try to recoup that. But have we explored who owns the property behind the block wall?
I have not.
Okay, I think it's County of Orange property because they have some authority for that drainage canal.
Control.
It's probably flood control, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, be part of the County of Orange.
Yep.
And I don't know how far the boundary is for the Southern California Water District in the park from the curb, how far back towards the wall.
Sure. We'd have to take a look at that easement to find that out. Sure.
I think that it's further from the one residence we see on the left corner. There are some trees that in some respect would block what I wouldn't particularly want to look at it.
Sure.
If I could put some vegetation around it to camouflage, I think it's a little bit more appealing. I'd ask you to revisit this particular area, if at all. From my point of view, this might be a site, but I think there may be some other square footage area that you might consider that might not be an impasse to accomplishing your placement of the pole.
Well, we can certainly take a look at other locations. I think that our position as the gas company is to continue to maintain our position within that public right-of-way, Mr. Coletta. A lot of factors considered there. One, and we can talk a little bit about cost and the cost to create easements or to lease land and so forth and so on. Everything is, as you know, regulated by the PUC, and it is all ratepayer funds. And we are taking every step we can to limit the cost of this project, which is already a very expensive project. So as you incur additional costs for private property and land rights and things of that nature, it becomes really undoable in that respect. And so you have an existing agreement in place in the public right-of-way, and that's where we want to identify locations that make the most sense.
Yeah, and I also think there's a cost impact to the homeowner that has to have, a pole within so many feet. It affects his property value. I, for one, if I'm going to buy a house that has a telephone pole in the front, a lamp post, or this particular device, I'm going to think twice if there's other options of other properties listed that don't have these things in the property parkway or in the backyard or on the side yard, I would go for the other options as opposed to having my emotions fixed on a particular residence. I'm just saying from the standpoint of a homeowner, there's an impact.
Certainly.
There's a cost there too. So we want to be good citizens, and I'm trying to get you to open your mind a bit, take it back to your table at the office and give us some second thought before we say, well, this is the place where we have a right of way, this is where we have right to put infrastructure, and that's it.
I absolutely agree with you, and that's why we've been as creative, been trying to be creative. We did take your residents' concerns and look at the park as a potential option. It's why we do continue to knock on doors, and we come before boards such as this to explain the project in the spirit of transparency. I couldn't agree with you more, and so we'll continue to do so. And this is a potential, I should note. And if there are opportunities within this area in the public right of way, or maybe something else as it relates to being creative, we can certainly take a look at that.
You know, like right across the street from the mini park, the drainage canal continues, and it's behind the homes as opposed to the side or in front of the homes.
Yeah. Is
Certainly.
there some reason why it would have to be in that front median?
Other than right away at this point, and overhead lines, maybe sticking it back in the park is a concern of your residents. Those would be some of the factors that come to mind.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you expect the need for additional poles beyond the 2 that you're proposing?
Thank you. Not at this time. And I think at this time is certainly the key to that phrase. And so as we look at our network and the needs here, most of this area is pretty well built out, and it's pretty flat. And so as we've looked at this area of Seal Beach, Los Alamitos, Rossmore, kind of this area, this is the number of units that we need, and we're not foreseeing any more. And if we got to the point where we needed more, then instead of sticking something in, we would be back before this body and having this conversation.
But these poles are specific to support the Rossmore community.
No, they're specific to support the advanced meter project, and the network is one unit. It's one complete network for the entire service territory. So these poles will support not only the residents in Rossmore, Los Alamitos, specifically Seal Beach potentially. You look at the surrounding areas, and you know the network doesn't discriminate based on jurisdictional boundaries.
So what are the arguments to not planting them? What are the reasons why we couldn't plant one, say, on Cotella on the parkway north of us, just on the other side of our non-signature wall? Why couldn't we put one there?
Think of it like a sprinkler system. If you, as you install sprinklers in a front yard, you have coverage over the entire yard. You move one sprinkler, and now you've got a dead zone. You may need to add 2 other sprinklers.
Well, maybe I misunderstood you. The way I understood your description of these transmitting poles is the poles that would be potentially planted in Rossmore would service Los Alamitos.
It would service it would service a number of different residents. You have 3 factors. Let's go back to that. You have 3 factors that determine the number and locations of these units. You have topography, meter density, and redundancy.
How many of these are in Seal Beach and Los Alamitos?
Seal Beach has 2, and I'm not sure about Los Alamitos. I don't think that there are any at this point.
They're
Maybe you
planned or
need to
not
reconfigure
planned?
your whole system.
No, it's pretty well set at this point.
Is there a candidate 3, the one site
dropping
that we went out to?
2
Is
in
that
here
still
and
included, the site that was near Los Alamitos
County sold us out.
Boulevard?
Yes, and that's not a separate candidate for this need. That is the second DCU that you need. In other words, that's the 2 candidates that we've talked about. It's either or for
Okay.
that one unit,
Okay,
and then we have another
that you're going to talk about.
that we'll talk about in a moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's 0 of these in Los Alamitos, which is the same population size. There's 2 in Rossmore.
Right.
So
And 2 in Seal Beach,
2 in
Right.
Seal Beach,
which is twice as our size.
which is twice.
You also look at where other data collection units are installed in other areas of other cities. And so you could have a number on the border areas of, say, Huntington Beach to the south of Seal Beach, as a for instance, or on the east side of the city and so forth
About
and so on.
Cypress, are there,
There's quite a few in Cypress. I think the number's double digits, 10 or 12 or something like that. Cypress has been installed for a long time.
Well, I think the reason you're getting these comments here is we are residential,
Absolutely.
where Los Alamitos has plenty of commercial space where they wouldn't care if a pole was there. Long Beach has tons of that. I go to your option 2 and I see your little diagram and say, why don't you just put it on the other side of the street in Los Al? So they have one and we have one.
Right.
Where we get amped is this is actually right in our face of where we live versus, a shopping center where someone doesn't care if there's a big pole.
Right.
And it just seems, it might come off to the people that this is kind of a heavy-handed approach that's being taken.
Certainly, and I completely understand that. In fact, this has been and Henry and I, I've been wrestling with trying to install or where we can be creative to install these poles for about a year and a half now. I think Henry and I went out about a year ago. That followed me and my staff and trying to be creative in this community. And I'm very sensitive to the fact that it is completely residential. It's really the least desirable from our standpoint in terms of where we need to install these. But when you're looking at the network and where we need to have our network installed, and you look at the meter density, you kind of talk about where there are fewer meters, theoretically you would need fewer receivers. You have a lot of meters in this area. That would be one of the factors for why you would need them in this particular area. You asked about the location across from Los Alamitos, and some of the reasons as to why you can't go in certain locations. Right across Los Alamitos Boulevard, you have a lot of overhead line issues over there, and staying away from those overhead lines is one of the reasons that keep us actually in the Rossmore community.
if I go look at MH127, right, which is one of the candidates.
Yep.
And I just want to see if I understand this graphic properly. I see a yellow push pin, which is what you have identified as the candidate location.
Right.
Is that a correct interpretation?
No, that yellow push pin is actually the center of an area, and anywhere within that circle, theoretically.
That red circle, anywhere in that red.
Theoretically. Now that is
Theoretically.
because when I install one unit in Seal Beach or in Cypress, that unit is fixed. And if that is, say, at the north end of a given circle, then I go in the south end of a given circle, now I have a potential hole. So as you fix portions of the network, it affects where you can install other portions of the network so that you don't have, dead spots or so forth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just the whole sprinkler analogy.
Exactly.
But getting to President Maynard's concept, if I look at candidate MH127 here, and I look at that radius of that theoretical red circle.
Yes.
If I just look across Los Al Boulevard, I am not in any type. There's that bottom right corner quadrant. That seems to be industrial or
That's the church.
school site.
That's
I think it is a church or something like
St.
that.
Hedwig.
Looks like it's
Yeah.
a big parking lot there.
Yeah.
They have a
Limited
parking
parking
lot.
lot.
Yeah, it's in Hedwig's.
Yeah.
See the baseball field?
Oh, so that's St. Hedwig?
That's St. Hedwig.
Good. It's, in theory, seems like why couldn't something be in that area?
Well, I know that we had some overhead line issues, number one. And number two, I know that when we came out with the County of Orange, we looked at locations, and this was an area that seemed to make the most sense. We can certainly take a fresh look at this particular location as well for you. I can make that commitment to do so. But we do have to steer clear of some of those overhead line issues that I know are present along Los Alamitos Boulevard.
You also have the Vaughn's parking lot, which is just a stone throw from the outer edge.
And again, I know that the further we get out in that search ring, the more problems that we have, considering where other portions of the network are currently fixed.
That's a big commercial site. It's not very far, probably 50 feet more, maybe 100 feet more from the outer red line where that pin dot is, and that's the Vaughn's parking lot and the Vaughn's grocery store.
Certainly.
Well, you mentioned earlier density. At the end of the day, I think there's only 3,700 homes here. So we're fixed, and based on the property, it's not going to grow.
That's right.
There isn't any more room. So I would hope that we can continue to work together. In the past, you've worked directly with Henry. I actually would like to actually help you out by assigning an ad hoc committee so you can actually work with two of these directors. So we actually have a little bit more muscle applied to this issue, if you're open to that.
I think that's a great idea.
Indeed.
How quickly could we put that together? We have our time constraints and our schedule that we have to be sensitive to on our end as well. I think that we could take a look with your committee in the next week or so and take a look and see what would work and move from there. I know that we have folks at the county kind of chopping at the bit to push permits through, and that's all on hold until we take these outreach efforts. But if there's an opportunity to work with your team in the very short near future, we can do so.
I'm a little bit put out by that statement because you've been holding on to this for a year and a half, and this is the first time tonight that I see these sites. Okay, so for you to tell me that I've got 2 weeks to jump through your hoops, that doesn't work. Okay, so this is the thing. We have vacation schedules. It's summertime. We're entitled to a vacation just like you and your staff. We don't use our vacation, we lose them. So we already have commitments. So let's be a little bit flexible. Okay, we're talking about people and lives. What would be life?
Okay.
Okay, so let's back off a bit. Let's see if we can work out a schedule where we can all be on the same table, try to make this work.
That's why we're here tonight, sir.
Okay. All right. So let's.
If we didn't have an interest in making it work, we'd already applied for permits, and you'd never see me.
I'm glad.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
so I mean, I don't want to put you off. I want to pull on the same end of the rope with you. That's why we're here.
Good.
All right.
So, as president, within my powers, I can establish an ad hoc committee, which I'm going to. I'm going to ask Alfred for you to be the chairman of the subcommittee.
Sure.
And is there any other volunteers who would like to work alongside Alfred with this?
That's right.
There you go. This is the new subcommittee. Work your schedules between Elizabeth, Chris, these two gentlemen, and let's put our heads together and come up with plans that work.
All right.
We have a question from the audience.
Oh. Please approach and say your name and all that kind of stuff, the formality process, as you will.
Mark Nedickman, First Vice President, Rossmore Homeowners Association, and I'd like to ask that we might have an ex officio member on the subcommittee. This is of concern to the Rossmore Homeowners Association. I know you met with us a year and a half ago, but we have heard since then exactly nothing, and this is an issue of concern to
Mr. Nedickman, would you like to volunteer?
It seems like I have.
There you go.
Welcome.
Welcome. Okay.
So,
There it is. One RHA member, two
Okay, Mr.
RCSD, and it looks like someone else might want to volunteer. Come on up. Come on up.
Volunteering.
Please, so people can hear your name and your question.
Mr. Adamsman, come on down.
Come on.
I also wanted to ask, just as a
You're the
point of
next
information on the previous slide, when we get back to that he could point out with his finger or a laser pointer or something precisely where in the right-of-way he was proposing it, because there were a lot of pictures, but there wasn't actually a designation of where he was proposing the pole. So, and as to the other
There was an
location.
orange cone. I'd be happy to show you.
Okay.
Mr. Radner knows it in his front yard.
Which this site here, where they were at the park, or
He's in the back row.
The guy there?
yeah, because there was a car parked. Okay, you can see where the car was parked, and we wanted to.
Which is where in picture number one? It's off screen?
No, in the upper left-hand corner, you can see the green cone right at the bumper of the truck that's
Maybe
parked
you
there.
can see it.
All right.
And can you put it in the middle of foliage? That was my other question. Is there some reason why, I know it can't be, interfering at the top end, but is there any reason why the first 5-6 feet that most people will see can't be protected better with foliage?
I have to take it look at the location itself without answering that. I couldn't tell you.
Okay. But
Generally speaking, there's no reason why it couldn't generally, but it depends on what's going on there at that specific location.
Okay, thank you.
Another question.
Irwin was going to.
Erwin, Mr. Burgess.
Erwin Anisman, resident of Rossmore. I'm not volunteering for anything, but I want to take advantage the fact that you have a gas company representative here. Mentioned that several years ago we had a presentation by a gas company representative about gas pipeline safety. I don't know if you were here on that or not. And this was in the aftermath of the tragic gas pipe explosion in San Bruno. And there was a lot of questions about safety of gas lines. And we have as I understand it, a high pressure line on the west border of Rossmore. And at that time, I or some others perhaps were asking questions about that line, technical questions which were not, the person who was there wasn't prepared to answer, the age, the construction, the welding, and all that stuff that were factors in that explosion up there. And we never got anything back as to, those answers, to those questions. We never got answers back. So I'm bringing it up again since you're here, and maybe you could tweak your technical staff to do that. If you maybe you have it in a report already.
Actually, I have Jennifer right here.
I'm the person that gave your presentation.
That means 3 years ago?
That was me.
Okay, well, okay.
Yeah, and in fact, I worked with Henry, and I did respond to your questions. So I'm not sure if the information didn't get passed along, but I did respond.
Specific questions?
Specifically to-
Specific answers to my
Specific answers to your
I don't think I
specific.
ever got it.
I can probably find the email and re-forward it to Henry or Chris if that's helpful. Right?
Mr. Burgess, did you have a question too?
Come on down. Da, 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 da.
Dave Burgess, Rossmore resident. In the middle maybe of his presentation, I'd like to know what the financials are. If in fact he stated that we're going to be serving other areas, how are they going to compensate us for their coverage through the gas company in financial terms? And also, what is the payment to Rossmore for the leasehold? They have a right of eminent domain to put their towers where they want with Mr. Coletta and your Mr. Casey's cooperation. Seems like there's a lot of unanswered questions. This all sounds wonderful until it's implemented.
Well, let me take a shot at some of that. I want to make sure I answer some of it as best I can. In terms of, it seems like there's a lot of focus on reading other areas and other. The reality is that much of Rossmore is going to be read by Seal Beach and data collection units that are in other areas. In other words, we're not discriminating on Rossmore versus Seal Beach or anything else. It's one network from Visalia to the Mexican border. So the reality is that residents, the homes in Rossmore are going to be sending their gas use information to data collection units that are in other areas besides Rossmore, first off. Some of the financials, I am unclear on what financials you're, maybe cost of the project? Okay, well, you're looking at, it's already worked into your gas bill, even as it has been for coming up on 2 years now. And so January of 2011, it was actually incurred as part of the gas rate itself to the tune of less than $2 per month per resident. The project itself is $1.05 billion. Come 2017, that approximately $2 that's worked into your gas bill falls off because you're just paying for the project itself. And everything with the gas company is ratepayer dollars. We get a new fleet of trucks, it's part of the rates. Jobs, part of the rates. It's a ratepayer funded, investor-owned utility that is regulated by the state.
Pay us.
I'm sorry?
I think you wanted to know how much you guys are going to pay us to put your poles in our neighborhood.
We're not paying you anything to put our poles in your neighborhood. We actually pay the county a whole lot of money each year to operate in the public right-of-way to install our infrastructure, as we do with every jurisdiction in our service territory.
How much are you paying the city of Cypress for?
I'm not paying the city of Cypress a dime for installing poles in their city. That is part of what we pay every year as a franchised utility to operate in the city of Cypress. The one caveat to that is in some cities that own their own poles, we do pay a lease to install on existing poles in some cases. I would say that of the 1,200 or so units that we have installed, 99.9% are on new poles, and we're not paying to install new poles in our service territory. We have that right as the gas company to install our infrastructure in the right-of-way. And so that there's no fee that we pay for that. And we're not paying that in Rossmore or the County of Orange or Cypress or anywhere.
That's fine. I just think that was his question.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Dave.
You got to.
Dave, you have to come up here.
You got to come up, Dave.
So people can hear the question who are watching on TV.
If a pole ends up in my front yard with the committee deciding it, how much are you going to compensate me?
Nothing. Just same answer.
If I were in your private property, you and I would have that conversation as far as what I would pay you. But if I'm in the public right-of-way, I already pay that as a franchised utility.
I have a
Wait, so how much would you pay if it was on somebody's public thing? I mean,
That'd be a private conversation, Mr. Ribs.
it's worth it.
So if I
Nobody watches these. I mean, just
It's just between the two of us here.
Yeah, you know, right. Let's talk afterward. No, I'm kidding about that. That was a joke.
If I understood you correctly, there are 2 poles in Seal Beach, is that correct?
Approximately, yes. That's right, I believe. Scheduled for now.
Okay, and if we had some smart meters currently installed in Rossmore, most close, say, to the border, because I don't know the range of their ability to transmit. Nor
About a mile and a half, generally speaking. That I want to stop you right there and just that's written in pencil because in downtown Los Angeles, I need a whole lot, many more receivers, more meters, and I'm in the desert. Go a long way between receivers. But on average, mile and a half.
But technically, some of the homes in Rossmore could transmit their meter data.
I would tell you more than technically, it will happen. You will be, homes in Rossmore will be sending gas use information to receivers outside the community of Rossmore, I guarantee it.
Could we get, when we get into these committees, that information as to what the range is of?
It's about a mile and a half, and that's the extent of what we have.
And the exact location of those poles in Seal Beach? So we can see, visualize where they're at, the proximity to Rossmore, and so I can get a better visualization as to which homes could rely on the Seal Beach poles to transmit their data.
Yeah, we can talk that through. I don't have any problem showing you where we're installing in Seal Beach. Is that Lynn behind me?
That's right.
All right.
Yeah, in Seal Beach, we're locating one on Seal Beach City Hall. They've asked us because of their downtown area, rather than put a pole in, they're going to let us go on to the City Hall. The other location is going to be a new pole, which is next to their police substation off of I believe
Seal Beach Boulevard.
Seal Beach Boulevard. And to answer the question, how much are we going to pay for the City Hall? $39 a year.
Well, that's interesting. Well, we'll have to talk. We have some other sites that I think they need to be given consideration short of where we've discussed this evening with the candidates we've seen so far.
Yeah, and I can answer the question why we couldn't go further on that one site into the more commercial area. It has to do with meter density. As we move into that commercial area, we're moving farther away from the meters. At this point, it gets very critical because we have to make sure that it's a redundant system. And we've actually come into some instances now where we have been asked to move it even 25 feet in one direction or another so that we meet that redundancy, which is required by the commission. They don't give us a choice. As you know, they rule. They're bigger than us, and we have to do what they say.
All right, well, we'll talk.
Thanks. Any other questions? We've covered a lot of ground this evening.
Yeah, I want to thank you for coming.
Yep.
And there might be other questions, and I'm glad that you're open to working with our subcommittee on this.
Certainly.
Because that's what it's going to need.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions before he leaves?
Nope.
Nope.
That should do it for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next presentation tonight is the Right-of-Way Academy. We have a presentation by the instructors Kathy Larson and Casey Spencer.
See, this is the right of way I want to talk about.
This is a good right-of-way. There you go. We're going to miss that, Jeffrey.
I told her while we were listening to that our transmitter is portable, so you don't have to worry about us planting it.
We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said our transmitters are portable, so we'll come and leave with all of our information.
You guys, actually, presentation number 2 has to stay to the end of the meeting. You guys didn't read that in the rules?
You didn't read that?
Oh, no. I'm not that portable. All right, so first of all, thank you very much for inviting us to come and do a presentation for you tonight. We are the co-owners of Right-of-Way Academy. We started it about 3.5 years ago because we found a need, and that need is that kids need more opportunities to write and to learn how to write and to learn how to love to write. And so we started Right-of-Way Academy. Just a quick picture here. This was an article that we did for the Orange County Breeze this summer. So I think there's a copy. I think I saw a copy on the table if anybody wants to check that out. I am Casey Spencer, and I teach 9th grade honors and 11th grade AP English at Oxford Academy. And I have actually 20 years. I was calculating after this was put together, and I realized I have actually 20 years of teaching experience. And I have been the Oxford Academy Department Chair, English Department Chair for the last 3 years. And have worked there for about 12 years or 11 years. I also am a South Basin Writing Project Fellow, which works with the California Writing Project, National Writing Project, and I've done several different projects throughout California and nationally. And I'm a College Board National Reader, which means I spend 9 days, which I just came back from, scoring essays from students across from here to the East Coast. I have a single subject credential in English and a master's degree in literacy and composition from Cal State Long Beach.
Go Beach.
Go Beach.
And I am Kathy Larson. I teach 9th grade honors and 12th grade AP Comp and Lit, also at Oxford Academy. I've been teaching about 18 years. I took a couple years off in the middle. And Casey and I met our first year it seems like it's been forever ago, and we ended up at Oxford Academy together. And I've been there now about 7 years. And I also am a South Basin Writing Project Fellow. I have a single subject credential in English and also an MBA. I am the Rossmore resident. So I am the one who decided when we started this thing, I said, we've got to take a look in this neighborhood. And so that's how we landed here. Right Away's philosophy is providing research-based instruction and small group writing communities, which builds confidence and transforms learning, empowering reluctant through eager readers to achieve academic success and become independent thinkers and lifelong learners. As we said in the beginning, or as Kathy said in the beginning, one of the needs that we saw in school was a lack of, writing instruction wasn't quite what we thought maybe it should or could be for students, and to foster a love for writing and using writing as a tool for thinking and also communicating as well, and then being successful in school. So it has multiple layers, not only creating a love for writing, but also being academically challenged at the same time. What we offer 2 major programs. Our summer boot camp, which is right here in the auditorium, the last 3 summers, is a 2-week writing camp that we provide 35 hours of direct instruction. And this will be our 4th summer here. And what I personally, I'm not a Rossmore resident, but what I personally love about having the writing camp here, at first we weren't really sure how it was going to work out because it's a big room and we have lots of kids with mini classrooms, but we found that the older kids and the younger kids are all mixing together and working together, and we also have the facility of the park to kind of go out and play and listen to the birds and write about all kinds of things that we hear and see and experience, not just in a confined space, but also in the park. We also offer a year-long coaching program, which starts in the fall, and this was our response to what we felt was an ineffective private tutoring. We both have spent a lot of time tutoring one-on-one, and we found that students really need that writing community, that small group to bounce ideas off of and to just kind of get better ideas from one another rather than just student and teacher, because it stops at some point in those sessions. So we provide a 9-month program of targeted, individualized writing instruction in small groups throughout the school year. We meet once a month, and then the kids get lessons and instructions that they take home with them, along with some novel reading, and so we cover multiple writing tasks throughout that time. 2013-2014 is our 3rd year-long coaching program going into starting in this fall. And just so you have some idea of the response that we've gotten over the last couple of years, we are going on I went back to try and calculate. We're up at over about 400 kids that we've worked with over the course of the last 3.5 years, and we're scheduled to have another about 60 this summer, which is what we have during summer camp, plus the coaching and a spring break program that we do because of a place where parents want their kids in spring break as well. So we've worked with lots of families, both in Rossmore but all over Orange County, and that's what takes me to our role in the community. We really want to find a way to become a larger part of the community, since this is really where our camps take place. So we've started, well, we have been for the last couple of years, donating our summer program to all the local schools for their auctions so that they can raise money. We want to work with teachers so that we can enhance what's being done in the classroom. Since we are classroom teachers, we don't want for kids to go back and say, well, I learned it a different way. We want to give teachers tools. We want to be able to work with them and take what we know and help spread that across all the elementaries if we can. Families also are looking for camp options in the summer, and we provide an academic one. It's just another option for families. We also want to figure out a way that we can partner with some local businesses. We currently work with Kumon. They're a nice fit for us. We offer the writing and the reading instruction, and she offers a real heavy-duty math curriculum. And so we have become a partner of hers and she of us, and we endorse each other and we pass each other's name on. And so we'd like to find other businesses that we can do that with as well, just so we can be a larger part of the community that we serve. And this is our camp from last summer. All the kids, we do different colors every summer just because we have lots of kids who return. So this year we're in blue. And all of our girls in pink are teaching assistants that come with us from Oxford Academy. They're either incoming 12th graders or they are outgoing 12th graders, and they are just going away for college, and they volunteer with us and they help run some of our smaller sessions when they break into small groups. And on Fridays we have Jamba Juice, so that's what they're holding. So, any questions for us?
So you also make presentations to the schools in the Rossmore area, like Weaver, Lee, et cetera,
you know
in
what,
terms of what you do?
You know what, we haven't been able to get in. We've really tried. We have contacted the school board. We've contacted individual schools. We are a for-profit company and not a nonprofit, and so the schools are hesitant to allow us to come in for whatever reason. So we're struggling in that respect.
Because I was thinking that since some of these schools are, quotes, blue ribbon schools, et cetera, that they might have an interest in the association, but in terms of finances,
well, we're not even, yeah, and we're not looking for payment from them, but because we're not a 403C, 504.
Whatever you are.
Yeah, because we're a for-profit company, they hesitate to allow us to come into the schools, I think because they feel like it's an endorsement, and then there's some sort of conflict.
Yeah.
And so we've got to find a way to get in there, because we would like to be able to go in and do presentations. We are teacher trainers. That's our background. We've donated pencils. We've been able to do that with Lee Elementary for the last STAR testing. So we're trying, and we donate the gifts. We're really trying to get in there, but not to charge them for anything, but to work with their teachers and help train them. We have a lot of experience. We have a background in writing. That's what we do, and we want to help kids. So.
How about the private schools?
Private schools. You want to talk about?
There's one in Cypress I can think of.
Or St. Hedwig's, too.
There's another one,
right here.
Los Alamitos. Have we approached those private schools?
Doesn't matter.
Not in this community. We have worked or donated scholarships to Valley Christian Middle School and Elementary School, and they have an annual auction as well. That's K-12. But other than that, there really hasn't, and we've talked to some teachers there as well, but we really haven't.
We've reached out to Hedwig, but we haven't been able to get it.
Okay, and Hedwig as well.
I tried Grace Christian School over in Cypress.
Oh, Grace as well.
We worked with Brethren a little bit.
Oh, that's right. We did present at Brethren. That was, I believe, a year, maybe last year, we went to Brethren and presented to their I believe it was their parent organization group that we went in and talked to them as well. The thing with the private schools, I think, is a lot of them offer their own programs through their schools that they do raise money for their own schools, other programs and things. And also Pegasus we've worked with as well in Huntington Beach, so.
Well, sad FYI is that the Long Beach School District for high school, and it says that you go up to 9th grade, they don't even have summer school. It got cut. Just FYI, there might be some people there who might need help in the future. Thank you so much for sharing.
Wait.
Thank you.
There's a question.
There's a question that someone wants to ask you.
Watch his hands.
I'm still not volunteering, but anyway, I just want to say that it sounds like a wonderful program, and I hope you get support for it. The question I have is at the end of the semester, do you come up with a book or a journal, a composite for all that you put together? And
they get published.
I'd be interested in hearing about that.
Yes, at the end of summer camp, we put together an anthology, and it includes all or a sampling of every student's writing, in addition to what we call a Dear Reader letter, which reflects on their experience at camp and their experience with writing through that time. And that's a published document that the kids get to take home with them. So I don't believe we brought one of those, but we do have those available.
Again, thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Next up is a proclamation for our own Director Rips, who today, unfortunately, or I should say tonight, is his last meeting at the dais here. So on behalf of the board and everyone here, we all have exceptional feelings and experiences that we have with you, Jeffrey. And we wanted to take at least a little moment up front and acknowledge the great years of service that you have given us by formal proclamation. Whereas Jeffrey Rips has dedicated himself to serve in the position of president, vice president, and currently as director on our board, as well as serving on various committees of the board since January 2008. And whereas Jeffrey was instrumental in advancing the district goals towards increasing its electronic communications and adopting a paperless agenda format.
Thank you.
And whereas the improvements made to this district and our facilities during your tenure will serve the community for many decades to come. And whereas the Board of Directors wishes to commend Director Rips for his years of dedicated service to the Rossmore Community Service District and his dedication to the community in which he has served. So therefore, let it be resolved that the Board of Directors of the Rossmore Community Service District desires by this proclamation to commend Director Rips and does not hereby pay tribute to him for his dedicated service to the Board of Directors. I'm sorry, does hereby pay. It's these electronic things Jeffrey wanted here.
Wait a second.
No, we do not want.
Phenomenal.
Sorry about
That's
that.
awesome.
It's not.
But the people of Rossmore community have definitely benefited from your leadership here, Jeffrey.
Does that definitely have or
It definitely has.
just
I'm blowing this up now. There we go. My middle-aged eyes on this little device. So I would like to at least give you a round of applause myself, and let's hear it for Jeffrey.
Great job, amigo. We're not done yet. So
I know.
you still have a meeting.
I stepped away from this meeting.
Yeah, you can't leave yet. Oh, yeah, you're far from done.
Can't
leave yet. There's work to be done.
I'm just worried if this is what he says while I'm here, actually what he's going to say next month when I'm not here.
I'm going to say that.
Okay. If we have, I do not believe we have any additions to the agenda, gentlemen.
Nothing.
Which brings us to our public forum. Any person may address the Board of Directors at this time upon any subject within their jurisdiction or within the jurisdiction of the Rossmore Community Service District. However, any matter that requires action may be referred to staff at the discretion of the board for report and action as a subsequent board meeting. Hello there.
Good evening. My name's hang on. Good evening. My name's Steve Corey. This is my daughter, Allison. We are members of the Los Alamitos Girls Softball League. I came here tonight for Mike Wilson. He's unable to attend. Wanted me to update you guys on how the league has been doing, and to thank you for your support. This weekend we had 3 teams competing in the state tournament in Lancaster. Our 8U team placed 3rd in the tournament. Our 10U team, they had a rougher go. They didn't quite make it as far. And our 12U team actually went 6-0 and are the Southern California state champions.
Wow.
Very nice.
This team also came in 2nd at the district tournament, which was played out in Fountain Valley. What I wanted to say, I've been in this community since 1999. Sorry, my voice is terrible from yelling all weekend.
All right, stop talking. What position do you play?
Oh, I play center field and I occasionally play second base.
Nice. Did you have a good time?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll listen to your dad.
That's okay. But I've been in Rossmore since '99. I've been coaching in the league since 2000, and wanted to thank everybody for the support that we get. It's a wonderful league for the girls. Does a lot of good things, and we really appreciate it. On behalf of LAGSL, we'd like to give we have one each: our 2nd place medal from the district tournament, and our 1st place medal from the state tournament. And we'll be going on because evidently the only place hotter than Lancaster in July to play is the national tournament in Arizona in August. So we go there the 1st week in August to represent the community at the national tournament.
Awesome.
So
Bring your sunscreen.
thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Hey, wait, I
Great
know
job.
you.
Congrats. Good work.
I'm Jessica Maynard's dad. You're Allison, right? Yeah, okay.
Our kids go to the same school. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thought you looked familiar.
Oh, thank you.
We'll pass one each way so you guys can look at that.
I got this. Yeah. I can make this. It's about 45 minutes.
Are there any other? Oh,
And the presentation, it looks like there is.
This is awesome.
Good evening, Board. My name is Diana Hill. I'm a resident of Los Al, but myself and a gentleman named Larry Strother are putting on a festival this coming
Weekend, right?
weekend. Absolutely. It's been a busy week already. Saturday, the 13th of July. You've all been sent invitations. We'd love to be able to have you there as well. Larry Strother and I started Taste for Los Al 14 years ago, and the model has worked very well for our local high school, in the sense of that it's a nonprofit that can sell tickets individually, come together as a bigger community, and have an event for everybody all together. And so, as many of you may know, Larry Strother wrote a book regarding Rossmore and Los Alamitos, and from that he found that this area was really known for sugar beets and sugar, and there was a sugar factory back behind where the post office is. And so that's kind of the theme that this festival and race have come from, is from the sugar beet theme. And what we are doing is that at 9 o'clock on the 13th, we're having a challenge run. And so we are allowing nonprofits, we're using that model from Taste for Los Al, to have nonprofits sell tickets to the challenge run. The tickets run $40 at the day of the race. They'll be $45. And we have over 40 nonprofits in this greater area that are selling tickets for that race at this point in time. You know, we feel really strongly that that Rossmore, Los Al, and Seal Beach are one big community, and I think that has a lot to do because of our school district and how that encompasses it all. So there are 40 nonprofits selling tickets. It's going to be really a fun race. We call it a 5K-ish, because it's not exactly 5K, but there's a lot of challenges along the way. And those are also really promoting businesses as well, businesses that are coming in. And actually, CrossFit Seal Beach is doing one of the challenges, and CrossFit Los Al is doing one of the challenges, as well as some of our construction. TKR is creating one of the challenges as well. So really incorporating a lot of the community and businesses as well. When the race is completed, then at 11 o'clock, we will have opening ceremonies of which you've been invited to. We are very honored to have Congressman Lowenthal, who will be coming to the opening ceremonies as well. And then a festival will ensue from there, we are hoping. We have over 70 vendors. We have a kids zone. We'll have a historical area. We have 2 stages of music. At Pine and Florista is where the center of the festival and the race will be. And then also St. Isidore's will also have some stage of music as well. As we have vendors. We have the RHA and the Rossmore Women's Club, the Friends of the Library, among a variety of other things. So we'll also have some food trucks, and so it'll be a good time. So I just wanted to let you know exactly what it was, make sure that you were aware of it and got your invitations. And thank you for being awesome citizens and very cooperative in this area. So I appreciate it very much. Any questions?
Yes. You can still sign up the day of the race to go run?
You can still sign up the day of the race. There will be on-site registration. The way, if you've ever done a challenge run or a mud run before, they'll go out in waves. Right. So there'll be about 30 people going out at a time. We don't send everybody out at one time and free for all. Also, another really interesting thing about the challenge run is that Trend Offset Printing, which is the 3rd largest printer in the country, they're 24/7. They're shutting down operations and allowing us to run through their plant. Wow. So I think that's a really pretty big deal, and I think it'll give a lot of people an opportunity to see what's going on back there that they don't even really know about. So, any other questions? Thank you very much. I did put my email on that letter, and if you would RSVP to me so that we could have credentials, we'd appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Liz, I know you sent that to us. Can you resend it again, perhaps, to the board? Thank you.
Dave Burgess, Rossmore resident. First of all, I want to thank Emily for her hard work on all the community events. I think they're up to 8 this year, and I'd like to see a lot more, maybe some during the winter. I don't have any specific ideas. And also some of the events that might bring some of the older generation into the activities. I don't know if it's in this facility here during the winter. I don't know what kind of events, but something to bring more of the older generation out to the community and get them involved. I live about a quarter mile from here, and I walked by on the Friday night, the first movie. Huge turnout. I think everybody loves it. The plays over the weekend, I'm not a big Shakespeare fan, but I drove by. There's probably at least 500 plus. I think it's great. And more of the events that we have like this for the community, I really like it. That's it.
Thank you.
Positive comment?
I read that legally the RCSD may not be able to contribute to the Friends of the Library, but anything assistance they can provide in like kind or publicity emails publicizing their cause, I think it's a great cause to bring the community into the library and have an outside area where the community can come to. Thanks.
It's absolutely true.
I agree.
Okay. We have no reports to the board that I'm aware of, so let's go to the consent calendar. If anyone wants to bring anything up, please let me know. Anyone?
Nothing.
Is there a motion to?
I make a motion that we accept the consent calendar as is.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving to agenda item F, public hearing, approval of our 2013-2014 proposed final budget.
Mr. President, members of the board, first I'd like to start off with a little background. The fiscal year 2013-2014 preliminary budget was presented to the board at both your May and June meetings. After deliberation of the preliminary budget, I was directed to publish a notice of final budget hearing on proposed final budget for this evening's meeting. Government Code 61110 requires that the hearing be noticed and held before the adoption of the final budget. And I provided you with a copy of that notice, which was published. With the assistance of the passage of Proposition 30 The state has passed a fiscal year 2013-2014 balanced budget. Within the County of Orange, the housing market appears to be improving and unemployment rates have lessened. However, California economists would define this period as one of recovery. Therefore, in the preparation of this budget, we've used modest increases in property tax revenue at 2%. You'll also notice that there's a decrease in the fiscal year 2013-2014 Fund 10 revenue of approximately $300,000, and that's due to the fact that we had one-time revenues during this fiscal year from Fund 20 administrative fees, as well as the state's payback of Proposition 1A funds, which have been received. In regards to expenditures, the budget allocates admin costs and overhead to the appropriate operating departments, depicting a more accurate statement of the cost of providing specific services. Overall, there haven't been any material increases in expenditures in the fiscal year 2013-24 budget from the prior year. It should be noted, however, that Fund 40 expenditures, that's the Capital Improvements Fund, for fiscal year 2013-2014, almost deplete this fund balance, and any additional capital improvements would require the transfer of funds from Fund 10 into Fund 40. So as the mid-year budget adjustment meeting approaches, and after we received, at which time we probably will have received about 1/2 of the fiscal year 2013-2014 property tax revenue, the Budget and CIP committee should focus on what amounts should reasonably be held in reserves, and then also what funds should be transferred to Fund 40 to finance future district projects. Also, in closing, I'd just like to say that I take the budgeting process very seriously. Overall, my biggest concern is not to err by overstating revenues and understating expenses. So sometimes I may have a tendency to do the opposite. I think that everyone would agree that it's better to underpromise and overperform instead of the opposite. With that, I recommend that you open the hearing, take public testimony, close the hearing, deliberate, and approve fiscal year 2013-2014 proposed final budget.
Okay. So
would you like to open the hearing?
I open the hearing right now.
Is there anyone? Do we have any comments from the public?
I like creamed herring personally.
No, it's pickled tonight. You don't
I'm not having any then.
You're leaving.
Fine. Let's see how it is.
Erwin Annisman. In preparation for the meeting, I took it upon myself to review the documents, the past budgets and the present budgets. And just for my clarification, I think for others too, because there's a lot of confusion about this transferring out of funds from Fund 20, the Rush Park Fund, to the Capital Improvement Fund, which I guess is 40, is that right?
Are you referring to the admin fees, the administrative fees, where we went back for the last?
Well, that's part of my question.
Okay.
From what I understand, this is kind of a quiz for me.
Right.
It looks like you had, at some point you found that you could charge
Correct.
Administration fee of $20,000
Correct.
over so many years.
Yes.
And as a result, you pulled out $200,000 or something, $240,000
total
from Fund 20 to other funds.
Correct.
And I guess my question is, as a result of that, there were some years that principal wasn't paid on the bond, or more than 1 year, or 1 year there was zero principal paid in order to fund this $240,000. Is that correct?
No, I don't think those are two different issues. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but, and Kathy, you might want to comment on this. I think you're referring to the fact that, how many years ago was it when you did the pay down of the principal? 2 years ago, and that resulted in less payments that were due?
When the board,
I need some
Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Annisman, when the board elected to pay down the debt by $495,000. That created a situation where the following year, there was no need for a principal payment made to the bond payment. And I think that's the answer to your question. That was the only year that I'm aware of where principal payment was not made.
But as a result of that, then you had the money to transfer out of Fund 20. Is that, I mean, money had to come from somewhere.
Well, part of what you're asking is what transfers took place. Initially, it was decided that there was, that because of the administrative fees situation in the bond documents, that the board was able to transfer $20,000 a year up in an amount of $240,000 into Fund 10, from which was then transferred, parts of that were then transferred to Fund 40 for capital projects.
So that that administrative accumulated administration money came out of Fund 20.
Yeah, correct.
And as a result, you didn't have to pay.
No, that had nothing to do with not having to pay anything. That was simply a transfer that the district paid itself back for administrative fees not collected for umpteen years, and took that money and directed it to Fund 10, and then as a subsequent action directed excess funds in Fund 10 to Fund 40.
But where did that administrative monies come from?
It came...
Assessment revenue from the assessments.
From Fund 20?
Yes, correct.
Which is funded with assessments.
So it depleted Fund 20 by that amount of money, and as a result, you didn't use it for principal. I mean, for principal payment.
A principal payment was made that year, but it had nothing to do with the fund transfer. That fund transfer was coming from reserve from Fund 20.
I mean, that was sitting there all the time?
Been sitting there, yes, correct.
Oh, and it was just accumulating?
It just accumulated.
Oh,
and we actually are anticipating, even after the payment of our principal obligations, interest, and admin fees, we anticipate a balance in Fund 20, which we plan on transferring to the fiduciary fund, Fund 50.
I don't follow that, but my question is, you didn't have to take the administrative fee. That money that surplus in Fund 20 could have been used to pay down some more of the bond principal. I mean, if you so chose.
It was an election of the board to do what they did.
Yeah. I mean, you were not required to take that as a result of the bond.
That's correct. It's not a requirement, but it's an option.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks.
Any other participants of the community on the public hearing portion of our budget approval process?
Where's my...
Please approach.
Dave Burgess, Rossmore resident. As you can imagine, I have a lot of questions on the budget, but the highlight to me is the $150,000 that we are scheduled to spend on the Rossmore or the Rush Tot lot. I don't think there's enough thought process going to it. I think it requires a public open meeting where we can openly discuss the options and the minimal requirements. And also, I'm looking forward to when the bidding will be open, since apparently it's over a $25,000 project, and we are paying a consultant $1,000 to travel from Beaumont X number of times, plus his fees, and I think we're getting what we're paying for. Thanks.
I would like to motion, or at least mention, since you brought that up, that we've had multiple capital improvement committee where our not our board of directors, but members of our board have been in all those meetings have been public.
Yeah, open
They have been
public
public.
meetings.
They have been posted, agended, and notes prior to those meetings. And we do bring on consultants when it is something that is important and something beyond our current experience level.
And also, I just want to point out that the approval of the budget is to approve the earmarking of that amount and not so much the payment itself. that the actual payment will come to the board again.
So that we're not executing any contracts now, we're just the amount of monies that we have put into buckets for
Correct.
projects, for staff, et cetera. So, okay.
Correct.
Thanks for that clarification. Anybody else like to participate? Okay, so the open portion, so let's bring it back to our board for discussion, comments, and possible motions.
Okay, first you'd have to close the hearing.
Okay, do I need a motion to
Yes.
close? I do need a motion to
Yes.
close? Okay, is there a motion to close the
Make a
public?
motion that we close the hearing.
I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
In case you guys haven't noticed, I'm trying to get all my last motions in before the...
We're going
So then,
to let you get as many as you
advantage
can,
of that,
Jeffrey. So,
So if anybody wants to make a motion, just ask me.
okay.
and if there's no more further deliberation, then there'd need to be a motion to approve the 2013-2014 proposed final budget. And then after that, agenda item G1 has the resolution to adopt the annual budget revenues and expenditures. So first I recommend
I'm going to make
that
the motion, actually, to
Okay,
accept the
thank
budget
you.
for the 2013-2014.
Okay, final budget.
Final budget.
I'll
This one
second
right
that
here.
motion.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Including the-
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, there you have
People
it.
like my motions. They're passed unanimously.
Approved 5-0. So that takes us to G.
Just trying to make you go there.
Isn't that in CISLA?
Mr. President, members of the board, now that you've approved fiscal year 2013-2014 final budget, I recommend that you approve resolution number 13-07-0901 by reading title only.
Is that a roll call or a motion?
Yeah.
That's a motion, Jeffrey. You want
I'll
to
make
make
the
it?
motion that we accept resolution 13-07-9-01. Reading only, of course.
I'll second.
And it-
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Resolution approved.
I'm on a roll, man.
Moving on to item H1. There's the CSDA Board of Directors election in 2013.
Mr. President, members of the board, as a member in good standing of California Special Districts Association, known as CSDA, the district is entitled to vote on a representative for Region 6. Attached is communication from CSDA requesting that the district submit its vote for seat B for Region 6. Also included are statements from both candidates. Also, as you'll recall, Mr. William Nelson attended last month's meeting and requested your vote. He has served on the Orange County Cemetery District since 2003. Also running is Mr. George McManigal, and he currently serves on the Rainbow Municipal Water District located in Fallbrook, California. So I recommend that you discuss the slate of candidates and provide me with direction to submit the vote.
Anybody want to talk about this?
Well, I've attended several meetings, both LAFCO and CSDA. I don't know Mr. Nelson all that well, but from some of the other members that are in attendance, he's very well thought of. He has a significant background on the different committees related to this, as opposed to the other gentleman. So my feeling is that Bill Nelson would be the acceptable candidate of the two.
I do like the fact that he actually came here at our last meeting and introduced himself.
Indeed.
And I also like the fact that he's Orange County. I think those two things alone would give him my vote personally. Is there a motion, Jeffrey?
I feel like actually making a motion for this guy George, just for the heck of it. But yeah, I make a motion that we elect William Nelson to the CSDA Board of Directors.
Second.
Technically, we're casting a vote. We're not electing, but
We're casting our vote for
correct.
the election
Okay.
of, exactly,
There you
William
go.
Nelson.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. H2, extended term agreement to provide tennis instruction.
1 second.
Thanks. Want me just to make the motion?
Oh, I want to hear that.
Just
Wait,
kidding.
I'm just trying to pull
I thought she was
my
waiting
thing
for me.
out.
I don't know.
1 second.
No,
I'll give you the opportunity.
Eight.
I'm kidding. You're going out, but yeah.
Sorry about that.
Oh, it is. It is.
Okay. Mr. President, members of the board, for the past several years, the district has had a professional services agreement with Mr. Fernando Molina for the provision of tennis instruction at Rossmore Park. Mr. Molina has been in full compliance with the terms of his current agreement and is requesting a renewal of his agreement for another year. I've attached his email dated June 26th requesting an extended term of his current agreement, the term which would be 1 year. I recommend that we approve the extended term to provide tennis instruction.
And the terms are exactly the same as they were last year?
Yes, they are.
Okay. We actually have Fernando Molina. Why don't you come on up?
Oh, he's here.
He's here.
Oh, good.
What does love got to do with tennis? I always wanted to know.
Ask him.
And he agreed to provide the general manager with 1 free lesson.
Is that in there? Is that
Just
in there?
kidding. No.
Wait a minute.
I don't think we can do that.
Technically, yeah.
Just kidding.
We want our fees.
Yeah. So is there anything you'd like to present to the board or?
No, when I asked for extension, that's, I mean, like we doing the same thing, like the agreement that we have, that would be okay with me too.
Okay. I appreciate what you do, just so you know. And I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad you're continuing, because it's nice to have a safe, local place for people to play tennis as well as learn how to fix bad habits. I do have one question. What happened to women's tennis in America? Seriously, where are the young upcomers? Is it going down?
Not only women, the men too.
Men's too?
The whole tennis, yeah. They need to, they are trying to reorganize programs, all stuff, but yeah, it's being kind of off right now.
Yeah, I mean, Wimbledon just passed, didn't it? And I don't even think people watched. So.
That was
watch
great.
a lot.
That was a
It's-
great.
A lot of people watch it. It's a good tournament, all stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, that was 15 versus 23.
Yeah.
So that 15th seed versus a number 23 seed in women's tennis. It was very refreshing.
Yeah, it was a big surprise. Even the men's size too was a lot of surprises in the early rounds.
Yeah,
when,
indeed, until it got to the final, where it
Yes.
was a little more predictable, but you're right. Lots of upsets. So how many years have you been serving as here in Rossmore?
29 years.
How many?
29.
Excellent.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I enjoy it so much that I still have a lot of energy to do it, so.
Okay, good.
Jeffrey,
Yeah.
would you like to make a motion?
Not that motion, sorry. I make a motion that we do extend the contract for 1 more year as is for Fernando Molina, and also state that he's doing a great job teaching tennis to our community. I guess that's not part of the motion, but that's what I think.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Congratulations and thanks for sticking with us all these years.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I know.
It's like a Vegas roll.
Okay, item H3.
Are you going to like, are you going to pressure?
Mr. President, members of the board, at your April regular meeting, we had a request during the public forum session from the Friends of the Los Alamitos Rossmore Library's Community Front Porch Project to donate funds for their project to renovate the outside space of the library. The renovation is to include better access from the parking lot, landscaping, amphitheater seating, and tables, which will increase the current usable space by 300%. The County of Orange has collaborated on the plans, and they'll be performing the actual construction work. Please correct me if I'm wrong with any of these facts. However, the county has not contributed any public funds to the project, thus the need for a fundraiser. The Friends of the Los Alamitos Rossmore Library is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, meaning that contributions are tax deductible. As a result, of the RCSD being requested to donate funds, I contacted legal counsel for their opinion regarding the lawfulness of a donation on behalf of the district. The district's legal counsel has advised that a contribution to the project in any way would be inappropriate due to the fact that library services is considered a latent power. Specifically, legal counsel advised that LAFCO's written approval for this expenditure should be obtained before any disbursement by the RCSD benefiting the library be made. The amount or type of payment is irrelevant. I strongly believe that libraries are an integral part of the community, and I'd like to invite the board to join me in making a personal contribution. Maybe together we could get a paver with the RCSD's name, or the, I guess the.
Well,
That might be
technically, it would be
inappropriate. It would have to
individual
be the
board members.
the board members and general
Henry.
manager of the RCSD.
So we all can personally make a donation, but on the title, we can have it still say RCSD?
Well, it says $100 for
I
a
suppose
4x8
so.
walkway paver, so we each have our own.
Or Rossmore Community.
No, please come up.
Sure, oh, yeah.
And like always, state your name and all that stuff. Come on.
Okay, I'm Sandy Lamaroff. I live in Rossmore. I'm from the Friends of the Library. I'm the treasurer of the Friends of the Library and one of the leads on this project. I didn't quite understand if that one section you have to get approval from latent powers.
Yes.
Explain to me. So
Okay.
where can I understand?
Basically, as a community services district, we have so many defined powers. We can take care of the parks, we can take care of the trees, we can provide parks and, recreation activities. There's also a lot of things that we can't do. For example, we cannot maintain sewers, we cannot currently, provide policing services or animal control. Those are all considered latent powers.
Okay.
And we cannot provide library services, which is another, under the code section, is one of the services that a community services district can do. Basically what happened effective January 1st, 2006, the state law was changed, and it said whatever powers or whatever services that a community service district is not providing at that point in time, they cannot provide in the future unless they get permission from LAFCO, the Local Agency Formation Commission.
Okay, so even though we're not, and to clarify for myself, I hope it's okay, so even though you're not, by giving us a donation, you're not...
We can personally.
No, I
Okay.
understand. You're not providing library services, you'd be helping us...
Can't give money.
But our attorney advised us, though, anything would be inappropriate.
Okay, I understand.
And we
I
have to
just
go by
wanted
what
to
our...
clarify.
Okay.
When I go back. Are you...
I'm done.
Okay, can I?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're up here.
I just, understanding that, and I understand, I would hope that you all would support us. I think this will be a better community space for the community if this can go forward. I also, oh, that was...
It's me, sorry.
Oh. I also would like, if any of you can help us by giving us names, businesses, or so forth, or connect us with people so that we can approach them in a professional manner with names, email addresses, phone numbers, and using your name as a reference so we can go talk to them and try to get donations. We've applied for grants. We did get a small one, so that's helpful. And we are going to business. We are also having Dine Out Wednesdays. If you all know about our Dine Out Wednesdays, various local restaurants on Wednesdays through the summer. The Library Friends is getting a portion back from the meals that people purchase when they take their coupon, and we have some over here for California Pizza Kitchen for this Wednesday. And I do have more. Donation forms.
Thank you very much. Yep. I know that we can't actually give funds, but if they wanted to have some sort of fundraising event, could we perhaps co-sponsor and allow them to use our facilities? Or is that also like... Because, I mean, the library is such an important part of our community.
Right.
But it's technically not.
Mr. President, members of the board, I believe that your policy does not allow for
Any of that.
profit, money-raising functions with board participation.
Okay, just thought I'd ask.
I have another question.
Yes.
We've talked
Right.
a bit in the past about your wonderful project, and I think it's, just fabulous what you're doing. And one of the things we discussed was possibly that you might talk to the county, specifically Mr. Nelson and Mr. Morlock, in terms of, what they might have to say in terms of your plans. I'm not sure what you did about that.
You
or
and
if
I talked, I think you and the three of us talked.
Correct.
And I composed a letter
Okay.
to the to our representative, the two you suggested, and you did go over the letter. I sent it, I heard nothing back. I sent it to his email address. I have gotten nothing back. And the county librarian wanted to know when that we were doing that, so she was also informed that this was going on, but I have received nothing from Mr. Nelson or Mr. Morlock.
Yeah, I know that was some time ago. I assume you sent it during the time frame when we were communicating?
Right, I still have it, so I have the dates.
All right.
I would have at
Sorry to
least-
hear that.
Well,
As I'm sure you are as well.
yes.
So in our agenda packet, it says $100 for tile, $150 for a paver, but on your form here, it says $100 and $250. So is it a typo on our?
When we originally spoke to the board, we were not finalized in how some of this was happening, and we had to go through the county library people and set the tiles up. So and get approval for all that. So the pamphlet is correct.
The dollar amounts on here.
Yeah, the dollar amounts are correct. We're given approval to do a large donor area, so we will be doing, if somebody were to give us $20,000, they will get a special.
Right. And a tax deduction.
And a tax deduction.
And although the county will be doing all the work, we can accept in-kind gifts, like somebody wanted to donate, the cement or something, that we can accept. And then as I was listening to the man from the gas department, I thought, well, the library actually is the Los Alamitos Rossmore Library in the city of Seal Beach, owned by the county. So maybe they'd like a poll.
I'll take a poll to see if they like a poll.
Circle.
What do you think? There we go.
Mr. Manager, I'd like to contribute some money.
Okay. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
I just got it.
Oh, I will as well,
Yeah.
yes.
So we can all pitch in, and then we can write in there whatever we want.
Correct.
Okay. I brought my checkbook.
Yeah.
Not my cash, so someone wants to get the credit.
Okay.
What are you doing there, Mr. Dr. whatever, Coletta? How much you got over there?
I'm donating $25 this evening, and hopefully everyone will provide that amount, or if not more.
I have a like amount for now.
I'll have to drop it off tomorrow.
I'm writing the check right now.
All right.
I got two ones on me.
That's all?
Take credit.
And we can do that after the meeting.
Did it?
You're going to have to start paying rent on the podium if you come up with one more time.
Can you get me a stool so I can see over it?
Possibly.
Dave Burgess, Rossmore resident. I've met with Mary and Sandy a couple weeks ago. I think it's important to point out that apparently the County of Orange, and Mary or Sandy can correct me, are not accepting any labor as part of the donation, but any kind of materials. One of the big ticket items is the drop box. It's $5,000 to $10,000 to buy a stainless steel drop box with a mail slot, like when you drop off, so you can go to the post office. Book drop, sorry. I don't even know what I said. Or a bike rack. Or I've already spoken to a South Coast Supply, and he's open without getting into specifics about donating pavers. There's Angeles Block. I know a guy that works at Angeles Block. So anything you can think of that you might see at a park, a picnic table, a bike rack, any of those kinds of things, if you know anybody that's in the industry, because if they can get somebody to pledge, a $10,000 book drop, obviously they're not going to donate $10,000, but maybe a group of people could pay them $5,000 and they, donate a $10,000 book drop. because I think they need, correct, I'm pretty sure it's a, county wants $100,000 pledge of this thing. I think it'd be a great asset to the community. Thanks.
Thank you. Oh, really? Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Anybody else on this? So do we accept your report, or what's the action item now?
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion to receive the report, Jeffrey?
I said, well, it's not actually a report, it's an agenda
Dare
item.
you? Nobody seconded it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, moving on.
That was cold.
Okay, we're now at general manager items.
Ta-da! As you can see, our first commercial monument sign has been constructed at the Arco Station in Rossmore Village. And I think it provides the Rossmore commercial area with the same sense of community pride and consistency that the Rossmore residential area now enjoys with the Rossmore Wall. I find it very tasteful, and I believe that any community would find such a monument an asset. Have you all had a chance to see it?
I think it's very tasteful. I think it's well placed. I like the design.
And it provides consistency throughout the community, bringing in the residential and the commercial area together. Next, I would like to inform the community that the district has received the Prop 1A repayment proceeds with interest as promised by the state of California. Received the original $70,800 plus 2% annualized interest for a total of $75,507. And lastly, I'd like to announce that the Rossmore Community Services District will be holding a special meeting on Thursday, July 11th at 4 p.m. in the office kitchen for the purpose of interviewing applicants to fill Mr. Rip's vacant board seat. Big boots to fill. The meeting may also include the actual appointment of a candidate to the board. And that concludes my report.
Okay. Alfred?
I want to just suggest to Mr. Casey and Mr. Niddickman and the manager and Mr. Tavro as well, given our vacation schedules are, to some extent, have been expressed for the month of July. I will be out of the area the first week of August and the last week of July. I would propose no earlier than the second week of August to meet and confer.
I can barely hear you.
To meet and confer with Mr. Simons, is it, the gas company? So sometime after the second week of August.
After the 2nd of August, okay.
Second week.
I mean, second week of August. After second week.
Like there's not a huge signing.
And I look forward to the continuing effort of the staff to facilitate the completion of the Rossmore Village with monuments. I think it's very tasteful. I think it's significant, and it works very well with the existing theme of our community.
And that's in progress.
Thank you.
Director Casey?
I have a couple items. First, I attended the OCTA Policy Working Group meeting on June 26th, and they have selected Alternative 1, and I think the main reason for that is, like all cities along the entire 405 corridor, including unincorporated Rossmore, all pushed strongly for that particular alternative, which adds one general purpose lane in each direction from the Euclid Avenue area all the way down to the where the 405 intersects with the 605. And in the OCTA board's wisdom, somehow, instead of like talking about alternatives 2 and 3 still being involved, what they've done is they've made some slight changes to those alternatives, and they've added them as two different concepts. They call them concepts A and B that are still on the table somehow, in spite of all the objections of everybody that was in attendance on the 26th. And basically what these are, it's like they call one of them Concept A, and it's one general purpose lane in each direction, plus another general purpose lane, which is basically alternative 2, except they've changed the HOV and said we're going to make it an HOT lane, which requires a transponder, and anybody can use, with a transponder. The second concept they introduced is the current accepted alternative A plus one general purpose lane in each direction. However, the general purpose lane would be terminated. It would go from Euclid Avenue to Valley View Street, and it would terminate there. And so they now have some deadlines in terms of screening all these different options and reporting back to the board of directors in September. So they already have a lot of other issues on the table in terms of concerns from all the communities, plus they're going to screen these two concepts. So to me, it's like they're trying to do too much.
Mr. Casey,
yes.
Is there room for or thought of a town hall meeting for Seal Beach, Rossmore, and Los Alamitos to meet, say here, or say at Seal Beach City Hall, for having greater depth understanding of this options A and B through OCTA and Caltrans?
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea in view of the fact that they're going to be releasing their findings. The next scheduled meeting of the policy stakeholders is September 4th. So that's basically 2 months off.
Yeah.
When they're going to be, presenting their findings. So that, that may not be a bad idea.
What's her last name?
Because I know that Seal Beach, I'm pretty sure Seal Beach would be interested in that.
Oh, yeah.
I can pretty much guarantee that.
Okay. I was just discussing with them. I know that they seem to have a very good community outreach program, and maybe we can have someone, there's two different people. I can't think of their last names. There's a Sarah and there's a Christine.
Christine Byrne and Sarah King.
Yes, maybe
yeah,
we
those
can
are the
have,
two ladies. Well, the one for this particular project would be Christina Byrne.
Okay. If the board would like, I could invite them here to field questions at next month's meeting. Would that be helpful?
Well, at a minimum, I'm hearing this for the first time. I'm wondering how many other people are hearing this for the first time.
I think the only people that would be aware of this were those that were either in attendance at either the stakeholders meeting or at the policy working group meeting. Those are the only people I know of that would likely, unless they've been following this through the local media.
Director Casey, they've also released the supplemental EIR, EIS
Yes, I was going to get to that
Yeah.
next.
We have a copy in our office that anyone from the public can come in and inspect.
When did that arrive?
Excuse me?
When did that arrive?
Late last
Weeks ago,
week.
was it?
No.
Wednesday, I think.
Recently, because
Yes.
It was emailed.
And that supplemental EIR, EIS actually incorporates all of the options that you've talked about. And it's a rather...
Indeed it does, but the biggest thing I got from that document that adds to what was already there was it provides a traffic study that indicates what's going on in terms of how it involves the city of Long Beach. Because I believe that we and the city of Long Beach have a lot in common along that corridor, because when those lanes terminate at the 605 freeway, not only does it impact Long Beach greatly, but it also, during the rush hour times, potentially could have a significant impact on our traffic flow as well.
It's a bottleneck.
I'm sorry?
It's the full definition of a bottleneck. All these lanes
that's
coming
correct.
and then stopping. So, yeah.
Does it make sense to have the presentation separate, apart from the RCSD board meeting, but to have
I think it should be separate, in my opinion.
like at 6
Because
o'clock? You know, while you have the cameras here, and from 6 to 7, invite Los Alamitos and Seal Beach and Rossmore residents to attend and to ask questions and get informed. I don't know what Seal Beach has done to outreach to their community or Los Al, but maybe Ms. Montana, you want to speak to the mayor of Los Al and mayor of Seal Beach and see what outreach they've done for their communities, and if they haven't, or maybe they have something scheduled. We should at least know when those hearing dates are, where they will take place, what time.
Yeah. I kind of reviewed very cursorily the EIR, and basically what was apparent to me was that the city of Long Beach got into the Orange County people's face, and the whole EIR and projects was adding lanes onto their side streets that go along the freeways. So kind of like pork spending, if you will. So Long Beach was strong enough to stand up, make commotion, and they're getting a lot of funding from Orange County to do this now. Whereas Rossmore, Seal Beach, Los Alamitos hasn't made that much noise. So I think it is time for us to find allies and figure out how we can make noise too.
Well, Los Alamitos hasn't made much noise, but Seal Beach, in my opinion, has. They've been fairly vocal.
Well, we need to figure out what we can do together, because for the Los Al.
And I don't know if we shouldn't even include Long Beach in this. Would that be a reach to go into LA County?
Well, it seems like they already have kind of a settlement on the table. They've already taken their path, but definitely.
I don't know all of what's going on with them. I'm not privy to a lot of that information, but
the more allies we can find, and Los Al should be interested because it also affects the 605 past Catella. So that is part of the environmental impact and where lanes are changing and part of the whole mess. So
actually, part of that study that is in the newest EIR, EIES, whatever the document is, does pertain to the 605 freeway up until it reaches Carson.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's both corridors that are involved in this study.
This is it's a supplemental draft.
Correct, that's right.
And it has to do, it states here, recirculation focuses on new traffic information in the Long Beach area. And there are two important dates. One, there's a public hearing on Wednesday, July 24th, which is right around the corner. And then also, there's a deadline for submission of comments of August 12th.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there's some additional deadlines beyond those as well.
I did, didn't I? Oh, and Liz just reminded me that I did have her send an e-blast out with this information last week.
Yeah, we should also, like I said, approach the school district as well, because I'm sure they have an opinion with the proximity of the schools to the affected freeway areas.
Hopkinton especially.
It's really close.
But
then on the 605, you got Oak Middle School right there.
That's right, actually.
Up
that's
to
correct.
So,
my concern is the comment period is a very significant line that's marked August 12th.
Yes.
And in the past, Rossmore, the Community Services District, and the Homeowners Association submitted comments. I don't know what the plans are within the RHA to submit comments, if at all. But we should consult with them and be on the same page and try to incorporate one corporate response to the supplemental EIR, EIS from the Rossmore community.
on the first pass, they did put out a position. It's on their website that they oppose it. But I don't know what they've done with the supplemental.
That's where
as far as I know, there was no one in attendance at either of the two meetings during June that I attended. No one from the RHA was there for those meetings. So for whatever that's worth, I don't know how much exposure they have to exactly what's going on currently.
So where does that leave us? I mean, we're...
Well, yeah, just to conclude, there's some other significant dates that are involved in this process, and one of which is October 22nd is the drop dead date for, they call it the PDT, where that's a combination of the OCTA and Caltrans that are going to get together as a project team and select the preferred alternative, which in my opinion obviously should be alternative one from everything I've been hearing, but as I say, the other concepts are on the table. And the last thing is the construction. If all of this is decided on that time frame, construction would probably start in about 2 years from now.
Yeah, right when this one's finally, the current project's done. It's going to instantly kick off into another.
Yeah, we're completing West Coast connectors, and then we're going to start out with the 405 freeway expansion and all the changed bridges and congestion.
Absolutely. Horror show.
But we'll see where it goes. I mean, they still haven't done the selection yet, so there's some more water under the bridge before that happens.
Okay. So, would you like to summarize your direction to me? As far as I have that to get in contact with the RHA,
Yeah,
get in contact with the mayor of Los Al.
Mayor of Seal Beach.
Okay.
And maybe
Should
even...
we attend the public hearing that's on July 24th?
I don't think it would be a bad idea to include Long Beach,
Okay.
since I think we're sort of partners in a strange sort of way.
But, you know, Ron, just, I don't want to belabor the point, but that's LA County.
I understand that.
So they really don't care. So we can go bring them in, but it's not, it doesn't behoove them at all to extend, to have any construction once it hits Long Beach. So they're really not going to support us, and they have really no voice in this battle as far as OCTA is concerned, right?
I think they have
Well,
a
I do
voice.
think they have, yeah, concerns.
And it shows when you look at the EIR, it constantly goes in there and shows all the financial obligations that Orange County has to give to Long Beach. They're getting a lot of pork out of it. They've already made a deal with OCTA. At least that's what I read between the lines when I read the report.
The original or the supplemental
The
draft?
supplemental report. Almost on every other page, when they talk about the options, they talk about how Orange County will fund this for Long Beach.
Yes.
Long Beach, I feel they probably already have their deal made. But Ron, I would like to encourage you, since you are on that group of committee, whoever the chairman is of that, you know, the meetings that you go to?
Yes.
Sounds like you guys got hoodwinked. Whoever the leader of that thing, you might want to say, what do we do? What should you do as the leader of this committee, that everything that we approved and sent your way, you just came back with different naming conventions and are still pushing something that we didn't agree to? Who can you talk to on your end, since you're an active member of this committee?
Yeah, I'll have to look up specifically who that is from our documentation, but I can find out.
I think you should reach behind the scenes and
Yes.
see what commotion you can stir with your fellow members.
Yeah, especially...
That's my direction to you, at least.
Yes.
So-
No, I agree. Yeah, that's a good approach to do that. Because as I say, everyone involved, all the cities that are along that corridor, they're all saying, if we're going to do this at all, we want alternative one and nothing else. So, you know, we've got supporters everywhere, except perhaps for Caltrans and some members of the OCTA board.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, one other thing, since we're losing such a quality board member, a valued leader, and excellent member of the RCSD board.
Alfred, are you leaving?
And Alfred's staying.
I'd like to, but no, I'm going to fulfill my term.
Okay, good.
And one of the most important considerations we have in any decisions we make in our community as board members, in my opinion, is that we always have to consider the utmost important to how any decisions we make will affect our community. And I always thought I did that until there were several occasions where we as a board were close to deciding something, and Mr. Rips said, you know, the community is going to be affected negatively in this way, and I think we should perhaps consider another concept. So one of the biggest things I gained from my exposure to him was that I had a blind side in some ways to not always being privy or smart enough to see some of the things that he did. So I got more from that than anything else. And I just want to say one other thing, that it's been a pleasure and a privilege to have worked with Jeffrey on the board for these past years. And in spite of the fact he's leaving us in the breach, I wish him all the best in his new exalted position with the JCC, and you will be greatly missed. As a matter of fact, I miss you already, and you're still here with us. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill?
Wait, can I just say one quick? Can you just never ever say me and exposure with you ever again in one sentence? It's kind of icky.
Okay.
First of all, I just would like, since they're gone, but I just wanted to congratulate the Girls Softball League for finishing #1 in the States. That's a tremendous accomplishment in 12s, and I guess I did well in 8s and 10s also. They did it out in Lancaster when it was 192 degrees, I guess, on a Sunday, and like their last game was like Sunday night at 10 o'clock after playing the whole day, and that's just a tremendous accomplishment for those girls. And this is also the same group that 2 years ago won it in 10s, and they finished second national. So it's the same core group of girls, and I wish them nothing but the best when they go to Arizona. And as far as Jeffrey, what can I say? You're a personal friend. I'm probably going to still talk to you, but thank you for everything you've done for the community on RCSD. You've been a fantastic leader, member, working on the committees, et cetera, and you're going to be missed.
Thank you.
Okay, Jeffrey, I'm going to go next, because one of the least gifts that I want to give you is I'm going to give you the last word tonight. And I would like to ask you at the end to use that gavel ask for a motion on your way out that someone else will make someone else adjourn the meeting as your last official meeting. But I want to talk about, in general, we all have very great memories of working with you, whether it's been at this board or at the committee level. You've always brought in very keen insight and wisdom, and a very academic approach to the process that you've taken that this board definitely will miss. I personally will miss the times as well. I wish you and your family the best success, and I hope you have a cool summer. And I'll let you have the last word.
Thank you. Wow, it's filibuster time. How long were those meetings before I started? Like 11:30, 12:30, 1:30?
Too long.
So I got about 3 hours I can go, right?
Well, you can try.
I can try. You know, when my wife and I were looking for a place to live, I never actually dreamed that we'd ever be able to live in Rossmore. And when we moved here, it clearly has turned into something more than I could have ever imagined. And when I had children, I never thought that I would ever be involved in community activities, but right away started coaching, whether it be soccer or baseball or softball, and ended up being on the commission of soccer and the board of the softball league, and found myself getting more and more involved in this community, which is just an amazing place to live. And Mr. Anisman, who is left, but actually called me once and said, you know, we should think about joining the RCSD board. And I thought he was nuts, and to be honest, I still think he's nuts, but that's a different story. It's been just an amazing honor and privilege to be able to serve my community, a place that I love and a place that my children are growing up in. I just can't imagine having not done this, and to be able to have worked with so many great board members and to argue over issues and share thoughts and ideas and really work together, though, on the betterment to try to make our community a better place to live, and to work with just staff that are dedicated to our community that, even though they get thanked sometimes, really don't get the accolades that they really should, because they really are here day in and day out to make our community better. And you know, Kathy and Emily and Liz, what you do for our community is just terrific. So thank you. Henry, you know, you said it, you know, I had never wanted to see you leave, so I'm not, which is a good point that you made. But being able to work with you and learn from you has been also terrific, and something that I won't ever forget. And I think that what you've done for our community is terrific, and taking it from a certain place, and when you ultimately leave, it's at a much better place. And I know that there's people in the community that don't get to see that, but we get to see that, and I think that it's just terrific. So thank you for all you've done, and continue to do for us. Chris, I'm a little bit disappointed, perhaps a lot disappointed, that I'm not going to have the opportunity to work with you longer, but I clearly see great things for our community with you leading us to the next level, and want to wish you all the best. And you know, if there's things that I can do on the advisory committee, is that
Be careful what you say.
well, he's already that hopefully I can help with that. You know, Theodore Herzl had made a statement about the creation of the state of Israel. It was Im tirtzu ein zo agada, which is, if you will it, it is no dream. And even though being here and doing this has been incredible, I've had a dream for about 20 years to become the executive director of this Jewish Community Center where I worked for the last 5 years, and where I went to preschool as a kid, and I went to camp and teen programs and met my wife there, my mom worked there, and to have the opportunity to actually become the executive director, and after I've gone through that 6-month national search process, is also amazing. So leaving here is not part of my plan, but the one thing that could take me away from here is going to really my true joy and passion. And so, you know, it's one of the things somebody told me, well, you could stay, you could just do it, just go to the board meetings, but I can't. I couldn't stay here and not be able to give to the community the time that it needs to. So I'm excited about my new journey at the Jewish Community Center. Definitely invite anybody from the community that wants to come and take a look around. It's a great place. And just want to thank everybody again here and in the community for being with me and working with me for the last 5 years on this great journey, and as part of Rossmore Community Services District. So thank you. You guys can't see that, but there's a standing ovation in here. It's amazing.
Which one?
So I'd like to, if I can get a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Meeting adjourned.